Welcome back to the channel. As you know, we were discussing in the last episode why we went down the road of building this pond that you see behind me on this glorious sunning up snowy day, if you will. It started off with about 5 inches of snow, and now it's just kind of, again, as pristine as you can leave it to be such. So in this episode, recapping the last, we cleared the area, showed you how we looked and identified the area as the perfect place for the secondary pond. It is located about 200 feet from the reservoir. Showed you how we put a pipe in there so that we could get closer to the reservoir, use a trash pump up the water to the main reservoir, so that we do not have a shortage this coming year of water. We should have an aggregate about 1 million gallons. But it's amazing how much irrigation takes, particularly if you're trying to start from scratch, grass areas, trying to make sure that the ground and the soil is correct to accept any planting, right? So we have heavy clay soils here. So come July, it all turns to brick and water just rolls off, and therefore nothing keeps nice and green. Before we start into the video, though, I wanted to talk a little bit of why we went with a spillway. Most people put a stance pipe in, 8 inches, 10 inches. That's fine. That works for other people. The reason why we had to go with a spillway or a large culvert raised up high was because the volume of water is significant. We can get out to max area of about, call it 2 feet deep, 1.5 to 2 feet deep by 8 feet wide. So if you just calculate that amount of water coming into this area through what we have is called a draw, as we've come to an agreement with the county on, it's just way too much water for just a simple pipe. Obviously, 8 inches of pipe is not going to remove the water necessary. You'd blow out your dam, flood out everything, it'd be ugly. So what we have to do, though, is make sure we have a significant structure underneath the water going across on the spillway. So you'll see as we go ahead and line it, rock it, eventually put a waterfall in on its most extreme east point, and make sure that that water cascades over beautifully so, but also from a use perspective, get the water away from the base of the dam. So with that, let's get into the second part of this video. So as you can see, we've gotten to work on our abutment here with the precast stones, so we're ready to go with finishing this off today. We got quite a bit of yesterday was kind of going back and forth a little bit how to get it done. Obviously, like everything else on this property, this is my first time doing this, so some learnings I had to get through, and even though I built massive retaining walls, these are different, only from the perspective of you've got to learn how to work with a large item, getting it around, and there's only 2 of us, and frankly it probably needs a little bit more, but hey, we're getting there, and here we go. We're going to put the left and right on. this spillway is also put a bridge over the top, as I've expressed. These abutments are going to also guide the water, of course. So this is a complete design of my own mind kind of moment, and I've never seen it anywhere else, so it's going to be cool to share out with you how this all comes together. I have my concerns, but for the most part, I think this is going to work out really nice. The abutment to the north is done. Now it's time to fill it in with A-rock and make sure that it's fully secured in and, you know, filled up and stable, right? So what we're going to do now after this is going to go ahead and start on the south abutment, get that completed, lay ourselves down some plastic, get the dirt cut in on both sides the way we want it, and set ourselves up for success to put out the rock waterfall. I will not be building the bridge this year, as all projects on this property seem to be a multiple year project. We'll probably work on this thing mid-summer next year. It's not a priority. The entrance and the fencing along the driveway and all that is the number one. Probably number two in my mind is the shop, and then number three is this. This is really kind of an after the fact. In fact, it'd probably be a pretty good idea to have most of this work drying out, the reservoir drying out just a bit, or the pond we just created drying out, so that we have some room to work. You know, at the end of the day, it'll be a project probably in August at best. Okay, we got our left and a right abutment here done. Ron's filling up the A-rock in the inside the right side here. It's going to look like it's going to work out perfectly. We'll run the plastic down the middle, and you know, after we get done carving all the dirt up and getting that all right and perfect, and then we'll start putting in some rock in between this and get our spillway built. Okay, with the abutments in, where it's time to shape this out and get it right where we want it to be in the inside of the pond. And then we're going to go to the back side, or should I say the east side of it, and get that the same shape, get ready to go for our waterfall rock placement. so Ron's digging down about 7 to 8 feet here. It looks kind of like vertical, which is exactly what I'm looking to do. And I'm trying to get the waterfall to be really dynamic and impressive to look at. So he's gonna go ahead and dig out this hole, put a little pool area underneath there. Call it a foot deep of pool water, maybe a foot and a half. And then it'll just carry out to the creek. As the grade starts to drop down, it'll fall right out. So yeah, we're getting ourselves probably a good 25 by 30 pool area. Stacking, I guess. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this is 6 feet. We don't really want to lose this 6 feet.
No.
Okay, so as much as it's opening up, really don't want the rock here to go that much further than that. You see what I'm saying? Right off the edge of this deal.
Right.
So those big rocks are going to come off like here. So then the real big right here and right here at the very tip. And then the splitter right here in the middle. Right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just trying to give you a visual on all of it. So if I throw this over, give it a cut, probably let it roll all the way out to your blade. Give it a cut, then bring it back up here, roll it one more. That'll give us enough to go underneath the ones that are going to go up here. Because we'll put them like 50-50, some up the hill, right? And then we're going to have to put more up here on the hill, but... Okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Okay, unfortunately that means that one of us got to be down there, one of us got to be out here.
Yep.
Okay, so which one do you want to be?
I'm going to be here.
Okay. Day 2 of the waterfall build. This is that day. This is the riskier day of the two. Hopefully we'll be completed. We're halfway up, and it's going to be very much a thoughtful process. Some of these rocks that we're about ready to place on the edge of the equipment's capabilities, and I'm looking to do something that might be a little too risky, but we'll have to see it and play it by ear. And that is, I'm looking to go ahead and stand a couple of the longer pieces up. Imagine a trident, if you will, is how we're going to finish this off, where one finger's here of the fork, one finger's here, and then one's going to be higher, what I'm calling the split rock. So the waterfall will split into two and come over the top. So this wall is going quite vertical, and the hope is to end up with a 6.5 to 7 foot waterfall. So I'm trying to make it as vertical as possible, of course trying to figure out how to do it safely without all collapsing and what have you. So we're going to use behind it the 4x8 size rocks, 4" by 8". They kind of work as large A rock so that it can fill in the back of this, and we're going to lean up and put it all in there up against it being supported. So hey, today's the tough one. I'm hopeful. I'm got my fingers crossed, and we'll see what comes up. With the large rocks in place, we're putting the 4x8 or 4-inch to 8-inch rock in behind to give it structure and support that's a little bit more leveling. It's hard to work with these big boulders. So what we're doing is filling it all in to get it thick, and we're gonna start building up the sides, get that aggressively done, because we've got some big steps to take next. This is where the nail biter is. This is where my crazy idea of building a Triton may or may not work out. Okay, end of day 2 on the waterfall, and I think we've made a lot of progress. If you take a look at it, it's really kind of coming together. I'm really happy with how it's looking. Got to take care of this side here, get it all wrapped in, and then of course down here below we're going to do the same. You know, and then, you know, I was kind of going for that Triton thing, and if you look at it here, There's 1, 2, and then behind my ears 3. It came out okay. Hey, listen, it's not perfection. These rocks are not molded to do things, but when the waterfall is going over the top of it, it'll look great. So yeah, on to day 3 of the waterfall. Okay, day 3 of the waterfall area in Spillway, and of course we got some weather yesterday, and everything's a little bit muddy and mucked up, and it is what it is. We're going to continue to work on it. Ron's going to shape the bottom down here, shape the sides in, put some plastic down, and put in some of the 4/8 riprap and get that put in there and secured. I'm going to go ahead and start working in this space here in the actual spillway, foaming in and placing rocks up against the foam so you don't see it, and get this all tightened out so that the water can come across without diverting and going into other locations, and probably work on the back side of the dam in a harmful way. So we don't want that. We just spent the last 30 minutes having a discussion that seems almost ridiculous at this point. Again, mind goes to work of, are we in the right heights? Do we have the right heights everywhere? And the good story is the answer is yes. So what we have is about, from the dig inside our shop, we have about 2 dump truck loads of dirt that we're going to put on the southwest bank just as insurance, so that the water comes through here at a foot high. And that's what we're really looking for, is that foot high of water coming across here, which is a foot on top of the foot of riprap. So if that makes sense, basically we needed 2 feet, and what we have over there is about 16 inches. So we need to close that gap, and we have the dirt to do it. So it's good that we kept that off in reserve, and I never intended it to do anything but what it probably was going to do anyway. So it worked out good. I'd like to say it was planned. It isn't. It just worked out. So with that, I'm going to let him do his thing for a bit, and I'm going to try to start thinking about what I got going. Like so many things I do on this property, this is new to me. I've never used foam on a waterfall, but I did notice on the waterfall that I put in next to the driveway that the water wasn't going everywhere I wanted it to go. So on this one, I wanted to make sure that I did some corralling of it, so I did some research and come to find out that this stuff exists. So I guess you give it a good shake, you put it on the deal, and you go to work. When it's wet and formable, you put in some of the rock that you want in and around it, so you just don't look at a bunch of foam. So yeah, we'll see. So you can see all I'm doing is putting a little foam in. It's black in color, it's matching in. And then what'll happen is the 4x8s will come across here. So it looks like it's a pretty simple process, just got to kind of stick with it. I couldn't be happier with how the foam turned out. You can even see it here, and yet I've blocked like literally 95% of all the water into what I would say the water will go primarily over here and through here, these two spots, and then it'll ooze out that way and ooze out this way, and it'll look great. The water will be trickling everywhere. Look great. I can't wait to see it. I thought I would take a moment here and start staining our abutments. You know, these precast stones, you know, albeit white and no big deal, it could probably stay that way forever, but I'm going to go ahead and put some stain on them. I have some left over of the stain that I used on the culvert boxes you've seen in prior videos. And then I went out and got myself some stuff that's a little bit darker and gray. So I'm hoping that the combination of which can play into each other. It's not going to be perfect. It's not designed to be perfect, but it should look good. You know, hopefully it'll give it just a tad of character to make sure that we just don't look just white. So with that, I'm going to go to it. I'm going to start off with trying to fill in around in the darkening in between this, you know, the stones, and give it a little bit of shadow to it, and then come over the top and try to paint it up and get what we get out of it. In the end, if it turns out a little bit weak, that's the way it goes, and I'll let it be. But I'll start off, you know, in the cracks and work my way out. Okay, I really think this came out perfect as I wanted it. It's a little bit in the shadows right now, so I don't know exactly how it's going to come out. But there's this hint of gold that's going on, and that's what I was looking for, because that's exactly what the basalt rock has looking in it, right? A little bit of a tinge of brown, sometimes it's just a bit of gold, and then it's got the deep grays in it, as you can see all around me. So I wanted some of that to translate onto the rocks. Obviously, you know it's fake, that's fine, but at least then it blends into the whole thing rather than just popping out as this big white thing. So it really turned out nice. I don't think I'm going to touch it much from this point on. I think it's done. So I still have the south abutment to do, and I'll probably take that on tomorrow. So let's push to tomorrow. Okay, I'm prepared to go on to the second abutment. It's the next day, and you know, taking a look at what I have over here. I think the cold weather, I had to hit this a little bit earlier in the day because I got just a hint of, it didn't absorb in, I guess the best way to say it, but it looks terrific still. Some of that I don't even know if that's kind of embedded in how the mold works, because if I look at this side, it's got some of that going on as well. So I just don't think it's part of it as well. So with that, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and start hitting this guy. Really excited to get this done before the winter hits. It would have been difficult to come into the back end with the weather on it. Of course, you would have had to do that much more cleaning of the rock to get it, you know, to be clean enough to take and receive the stain. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and dive into this, and yeah, let's finish off this side. So everything is completed now, right? The two abutments, the spillway, the waterfall, which is going to obviously look just amazing when it's completed, the pond, all the elements of this area are getting together and finally finished here. It is November, and normally we have the water come through somewhere around in January. Of course, the weather is always a variable up here in North Idaho. So I'm going to go ahead, put us on pause here for a little bit until I can get the weather to bring in the water, and hopefully can get the opportunity to film it being filled up. So if you're taking on a challenge like a pond, there is an opportunity to put a spillway in. You got to make sure that you are taking into account the fact that you have to have enough of a dam in its way, right? And you have to make everything very strong, right? We've got a riprap in here, large boulders, you know, an immense amount of boulders on the waterfall end. So this is a natural choke point right here. It's probably about 30-40 feet wide, when the pond itself is about 125-150 feet wide. So I'm not having to build a dam all the way across and make sure that the height is all the way across, you know. So some people have to, right? Which means they would have to have a higher spillway over the top of it. Because one of the downsides of doing this would be that we wouldn't be able to collect as much water. And in our particular case, that's not the issue, because for me to go ahead and dig deeper, I would have ran into basalt, and in fact, we were already doing it. Wasn't going to cut through basalt. The second thing would have been, I would have had to lift up the shoreline as I went west, and I wasn't going to do that either. So we were at a point where that was the height, and that was the level, and the checkpoint, the choke point got its way into here, and like I said, 30-40 feet wide. We've built it up so that I could build the bridge across. Got about a foot of water, probably 2 feet of air, so that we won't ever experience a day where the bridge gets washed out, because when the water's rushing through here, as you'll see in a minute, it's quite the force. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring out the end of this video, and hey, thank you for watching.